Okay, so here I've sketched in two heads, and now we're going to shade them following the principles that I've covered in the first half of the tutorial. Let's think about the light direction in the head on the left. So this one I'm going to set up with a traditional light direction, slightly from the top, slightly from this side. So if you guys remember, we have a light source that is doing this. So approximately a 45-degree angle, slightly from the top. The first step is to determine where the light break would be. So on a sphere, you would have a light break that runs at approximately 1/3 the width of the sphere, the surface area of the sphere. It's going to be on this side, right? So when I'm looking at this, I'm trying to think about what the simple shapes are, where the plane shifts are, where I would see light, and where I would see shadow. So for instance, here, this is pretty simple. We have a spherical shape here, like this, right? So light is coming from here, this way, hitting the forehead, and then where would the light break be? It would be maybe about here, possibly, going this way. So here's our light break. And then when you hit the temple, the light break becomes a little bit more cuboid, a little bit more abrupt. So it's going to run down this way, like this. So the entire side of the head, the temple is going to be in shadow. Light is coming from the top, which is going to throw the entire area underneath the brow into shadow, like this way. And then we have a plane shift away from the light source along the cheekbone, this way, along the cheek. So again, we're all dealing with a really round shape, essentially an egg shape, going this way. Then we have another round shape. Where would the light break be? It would be here, like this. Right? So that's always step one, trying to indicate the shape of the light break. Here, it's pretty easy. We have a cylindrical shape here running down, and a little ball shape here at the tip. Where would the light break on the cylinder be? It would be here, and then it would follow the curvature of the sphere here, and this entire part of the nose is going to be in shadow. Now the nose is going to cast a shadow as well, so quite possibly you're going to have a cast shadow that runs like this, going this way, like that. The upper lip is facing away from the light source. It's going to be in shadow. The lower lip is somewhat spherical, so you're going to have a little bit of a shadow on this side. It's going to cast shadow underneath, which is going to flow here like this. Maybe it will just run down a little bit like this way. Alright, and then the entire part of the head here is going to be entirely in shadow. There might be a cast shadow that runs across like this, and then we have a cylindrical shape here, which means that this part of the neck is going to be in shadow. So always, the first step is to determine where you think the light break is. Now I'm going to shade everything I see as shadow. And then where I see a body shadow, I'm going to make sure that I'm dealing with a soft edge. Body shadows have soft transitions. This is another body shadow here. It has a soft transition. There'll probably be a shadow here. Now, I'm not just following principle. I've drawn the head many, many times, probably under similar light conditions, so I have a pretty decent memory of what this looks like. But thinking through the forms, thinking about what kind of shadow I'm seeing, really helps me. So really the key to learning how to shade from memory is to draw and draw and draw and draw and gain lots of experience drawing from observation. What that does is that it builds a visual vocabulary. A vocabulary of trees, of clouds, of mountains, of people, of hands, that you can use, you can draw from whenever you're shading from imagination, from memory. However, knowing the principles is really key. Understanding where shadows should be under different light conditions is really key. No amount of memory, building a visual dictionary is going to help with that. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this. I know this pencil is a little bit pale. might not be showing up here particularly well. Okay, so what else? Okay, so we've got a round shape here. The bottom of it might be in a little bit of halftone. Now I'm going to start going in and finding my core shadow. So core shadows exist where? Everywhere you have a body shadow, absolutely everywhere. It'll look like this. So where the form transition is more gradual, the core shadow diffuses slightly. Where the form shift is slightly more abrupt, the core shadow will tend to condense. So here, for instance, we have almost a cuboid shape here. We're going to have a relatively sharp core shadow here. On the cheek, it's a little bit more rounded, a little more gradual. Like this. Let's get a little bit more contrast here. So now I'm thinking about core shadows. I'm also thinking about reflected light. So where would light reflect? We've got a spherical shape here. Where would you see a reflection? Well, underneath the nose here, underneath the chin here. Here we've got a reflected light. Here we've got a reflected light. Even though the form is more complicated, it still follows the simple principles of spheres, cylinders, and cubes. Now, on the lighter side, we're going to have a range of value as well. So we need to think about where the forms are going to be in halftone, where the forms are facing 90 degrees to the light source, where they're going to be hit by light more directly. It's essentially a big logic problem. Think about what the planes are doing, whether they're facing a light source or 90 degrees from the light source. Again, the whole point of doing this is to, well, first of all, to learn how to shade better. But really, we're doing this for the value study. So if you don't get it exactly right, you at the very least should approximate it close enough so that you know exactly what kind of illustration you're doing, what kind of reference material to gather. Right? How to light your reference photos. So again, if you don't get this exactly right, don't worry, little by little, with practice, you get better over time. But because we're using this to simply improve our idea, to get a better idea of what the final sketch is going to look like, having perfect accuracy is not particularly important. Just get as close as you can. Okay, so here is shaded head number 1. Shaded head number 2, we're going to do with an entirely different light direction. Let's try something that is backlit. All right, backlit light situation. A backlit light situation will look like this. So let's say light is coming from here, like this. Our sphere is going to be mostly in shadow. You're going to have a light break that runs probably like this way. We're still going to have a fuzzy edge. We're still going to have a core shadow. Soft transition, reflected light. The only thing that's different is the amount of shadow and also obviously the shape of our light breaks. Okay, find your light break. So notice, once again, we have a spherical shape here. Where's the light break? It's going to be here, like this. This way. And then maybe it'll illuminate all of the edges of the form here, like this. You're going to see a light break along the edge of the cylinder, along the edge of the sphere, going this way, like that. So that most of your head is going to be almost entirely in shadow. Think about where the planes are going to face the light source. In very few spots, right? So the lip curves around, it's going to catch a little bit of light. this plane right here might catch a little bit of light. Most of it, however, is going to be in shadow. Maybe a little bit of the eye. Maybe. Okay, so in this case, let's once again separate our shadows from our lights. Thinking about where to leave our light spots. Like this. Okay, that's going to be step one. Now let's find our core shadows. Under this light condition, the core shadows are going to be quite dark and pretty sharp. This is a very dramatic, high contrasting light angle. Don't forget about your core shadows. Everywhere there is a light break, you're going to see a core. Everywhere. And without that core, the form doesn't turn. Now in this case, there's going to be a lot of shadow. There's going to be detail in the shadows. Obviously the shadows aren't all going to be the same value. So there might be some places where it goes a little bit darker. Again, this is where experience starts taking over. I don't want to lose everything to the shadows. I want to make sure there's enough definition, difference in value in the shadows so that you can actually see what's happening. Put a little bit more definition here. Just want you guys to see what's going on here. Okay, so here we have two heads, different light directions. Which one am I going to choose? Well, look, it depends on the storytelling aspect. So this is slightly more classical. This is the more easy option. However, it gives me a more classical look. If I'm going for something that's moody, dramatic, something with perhaps a more modern feel to it, then by all means, this is a very, very good dramatic choice. Backlighting. As always, in illustration, the storytelling aspect is just about the most important thing. And then we need to use everything at our disposal visually to tell the story. Lighting is part of the storytelling. How sharp the lighting is, the direction of the light is an incredible part of the narrative. So if you're using very soft diffuse light, it creates a really soft, gentle effect. If you're using really sharp, strong light, it creates a dramatic effect. If you use bottom lighting, it's going to become very, very theatrical. So focusing on the light direction in the value study, trying different light directions, thinking about how the light is communicating, what kind of story the light is telling, is an important aspect of illustration. This is something that requires practice, however. It's difficult. Draw a lot from observation, practice drawing simple forms from observation, and then little by little, you'll develop the ability to shade from your head.